This is Uriah Faber, the California Kid, and you're listening to Split Decision.
All right, MMA Maniacs, welcome to Split Decision, your weekly MMA podcast brought to you from the Ruloff Family Inc. studios. Bueller and Dodge on the mic, of course, going to bring you the latest in the MMA news and breakdown of your upcoming UFC 173 Barao versus Dillashaw happening this Saturday. And, of course, we're going to thank Fight Fans Video Network for sponsoring us on their Spreaker, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. We have our own Spreaker, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. Yes, we have Stitcher. Also, iTunes. That's the easiest way to do it, man. Honestly, subscribe on iTunes. You'll never miss a show. It'll always update for you. And you can check us out on Instagram and Twitter on SD_MMA. Our official website, which is SplitDecisionMMA.com. And on Facebook, give us a like, Split Decision MMA Podcast. With all that said and done, let's jump into some crazy news.
Dennis, you gonna get us on Blogspot so Joe can continue saying that?
I would have to actually create a blog spot.
I found a blog spot.
Did you?
All right, back to the news.
Yeah, back to the news. Blogspot's got porn. I know that. I don't know if they have any.
Whoa. British Columbia Athletic Commission has banned TRT before UFC 174 happens there.
In before 174?
In before 174, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're basically taking the steps that the California State Athletic Commission, the Nevada State Athletic Commission, and the New Jersey State Athletic Commission have put forth along with the Brazilian Athletic Commission and say that they are going to ban TRT.
Well, I mean, I thought Dana White pretty much said it was not going to be allowed in the UFC no matter what.
It was going to not be allowed. Yeah, anywhere they go that they're not the regulatory body. Now, British Columbia has a regulatory body,
okay.
So it was going to be up to British Columbia.
Okay.
They've decided to, just like everybody else.
I mean, it should just be, like, realistically, it should just be a company-wide policy. Not just an athletic commission policy, but a company-wide policy. Because especially if you're going to go to a state that still allows it,
right.
Then you're going to have guys cycling on, cycling off. Oh, I only want to fight in this state because they allow TRT.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Why don't you just have that? Like Abu Dhabi. That is the... Everything goes at Abu Dhabi.
UFC TRT 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to have an all TRT card. I'd be okay with that.
I would be okay with that.
Every fighter is on
I'd be
TRT
okay with that.
is on this card.
Just like an all...
Every single
like
one,
all steroids,
including the women.
Yeah, all steroids Pro Bowl, all steroids World Series.
Right.
You know, let's
and cocaine in every main event.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah. They can pick their drug.
Dude, I want to get Lawrence Taylor out there, bro.
That's illegal.
Melvin Gillard make a comeback if that was allowed.
Allegedly.
No, he did cocaine.
No, allegedly.
No, he did cocaine. There's no allegedly about it. He did cocaine.
He got busted with it.
He did.
Moving on now to your celebrity fights.
Celebrity fight. Shaquille O'Neal wants to fight Jose Canseco. Either in an MMA bout, a UFC bout, or a street fight.
He didn't learn from Hung Man Choi? He's going to try to fight another big-ass dude? So that's a terrible idea.
He only lost in 77 seconds in that bout, okay? 77 seconds.
He practically got ragdolled in that fight with Hung Man Choi. It
was pretty funny.
I would watch this fight. I don't know how fast Shaq could move at this point.
Shaq even said he'd fight Hung Man Choi.
I would hella watch that.
Yeah.
That'd be the biggest, slowest fight ever.
Hey, give me some Shaq trash talk.
You know, if we go to it, I'm gonna bash your brother. You know, you think that you bash brother? I'll hit a home run with your head. You're gonna meet my elbow. You're gonna get my size 15 foot in your ass.
I believe it's bigger. It's like size 25.
You're gonna get my size 25 foot in your ass. You taste my toes. That's what you're gonna taste. You're gonna taste Shaq toes. I'll show you Shaq Fu, bitch.
Shaq Fu, I like it. Yeah. He even said he'll knock him out in 42 seconds.
His number?
Awesome. Wait for it. Wait for it.
He said a UFC fight, a street fight, laser tag, doesn't matter. I'll beat him.
What is his reach? I wonder what his reach is.
Pterodactyl.
112, 115.
I would like to see Shaq fight in a UFC bout.
I'd watch it. I'd hella watch it.
Any MMA bout. I mean, he's look how big he is over the ream, dude.
He wouldn't make weight. He couldn't make weight.
Super heavyweight.
Yeah, it would have to be an exhibition match. There's no way he wouldn't make weight.
Look, there's your girlfriend.
What does he weigh? 300 pounds?
It's got to be.
At least?
It's got to be.
Brock Lesnar.
I don't know.
Well, somebody signed their own death warrant in Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah, a little unsafe celebrity news, I guess you could say. Shogun Rua was robbed at gunpoint They made him strip, made him get naked.
What?
They took everything but his boxers. He was shoeless, shirtless, pantless. They took everything he owned, put a gun to his head, and took everything he owned.
Why would you do this as Shogun? He's going to... I have a specific set of skills.
Oh, yeah.
4 armed guys.
Yeah.
With,
They told him straight
with
up.
assault rifles.
We know you fight. Don't even move around.
Yeah,
Just
that's why they had guns.
Yeah.
But he's going to come back and kill them. This is taken.
No, it's Brazil.
It's
How are you
Brazil.
going to find him?
He says this thing.
Hey, it was the
these
guy
things
with the
happen.
gun.
Yeah, he said these things happen, and he said, "Don't worry, it'll be safe when the World Cup comes."
Yeah, right.
No, he says because they get extra police force and extra army that comes in to make sure that the World Cup is safe. He's all, but what about after? We got to live with this shit. Like seriously.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? The whoever is in charge of this whole World Cup thing already put out a notice to all the other countries. Tell your people if they get mugged not to scream because they will get killed. They said that. Just tell them, look, there's no use crying over spilled milk. You already got robbed. Fucking deal with it.
It's disrespectful
don't
to
scream
scream
about it.
while
They
you're being
actually-
robbed.
They actually have a name. I can't remember what it's called now, but they actually have a name for the crime of escalation that turns into murder, like robbery that turns into murder. It's got a specific name to it. Like, you're not a victim of murder and robbery. You're a victim of whatever it's called. It's insane. Don't scream. You already lost your shit. You know, if you yell at them, they're just gonna fucking kill you.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. I like Nick's.
Oh,
response
dude,
about
that
it.
was hilarious. Nick Diaz was caught outside with a TMZ type reporter, drunk off his ass, obviously, having a good time out on a Saturday night. And they tell him about what happened. He's like, "That's crazy. That's crazy. Dude, you're going to have to slap me.
Yeah, he's like, you might as well shoot me.
You might as well shoot me. I ain't giving you my clothes. I ain't giving my clothes. No, man, you see that movie Turistas? Remember when they smack that guy, he starts crying? You're going to have to do that to me. You're going to have to smack me until I start crying because I'm not taking off my clothes." Like, he was drunk as fuck, dude. It was hilarious.
I don't think Nick Diaz would take off his clothes
No.
either. I think Nick Diaz would get killed.
Yeah, he'd be like, "Shoot me." He even said, "Shoot me. Shoot me." You're not, no, I'm not getting naked. He's all, "But that's real shit, though. That's why I don't go to Mexico or Brazil."
Or any country in between. That's awesome.
It was pretty funny.
Bob Sapp.
Bob Sapp says he has $10 million,
Liar.
and that's why he's on an 11-fight losing streak.
Why do
because
you don't say that shit out loud, man?
He doesn't care. He's like, I got $10 million. He's like,
Yeah.
I've been saving all my money and all these things I did in Japan. He's like, I don't need to really step in and prove myself because I have money.
Bob Sapp, the day after he made this statement, checking his mail, IRS. What do you mean you want a meeting?
It just goes with what I say, man. I've never heard anybody worth a shit that had to tell me that they were worth a shit.
That's a good point. Very valid point.
Renzo Gracie got arrested recently.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
Igor, right?
Igor Gracie, yes, his cousin. They both got arrested in a barroom brawl in New York City, where the bouncer now has a broken arm.
Well, that's what you get for fucking with the Gracies.
He says it was a big misunderstanding. We do have footage of the
A
incident.
misunderstanding that ends up in a broken arm. The misunderstanding was like, you should have let me go.
Do you want to watch the video?
Sure. I want to see somebody's arm.
Yeah, when you watch the video, King Mo's use of the umbrella is brilliant.
What is this?
Had these guys had umbrellas, you wouldn't have got any of it on video. So everybody should just be running around with umbrellas.
Is this a commercial?
I kind of like V. Stiviano's way of getting away from the paparazzi. She's just wearing the
Oh,
welding bike.
the welding.
Yeah. That's my favorite thing. What do we want? What is this?
There's an ad.
Stupid ads.
We'll come back to that.
All right.
We'll let that ad run. Get on the other page. Dana
yeah.
White, Kim Shamrock have squashed their beef, and all it took was a 45-minute phone call.
I read this and I was like, wow, cool. So it's 1997. All right.
Bigger than us. It's good for the UFC, and it's good for the fans.
Yeah, you know what it sounded like? That phone call is like, "Hey man, how do you operate if you want to watch TV and listen to stereo? How would I do that, man?"
I'm trying to get the UFC app to work on my Xbox, Dana, and I think you blocked me. So I will give you that $45,000 that I still owe you, and can you get my Xbox to work?
Yeah, come
you
off
could put-
Angry Island and come to Friendly Shores.
Put me back in the Hall of Fame so I can start selling merch. It'd be awesome.
This is the fight.
Enzo's crazy, man. You don't
He
mess with
is.
him. And he wants to get
Nice.
back in the UFC, which I think is awesome. I mean, if obviously Dana sees this video and shows that he's still got the skills, we should put him back in. Give him another fight. Give him a fight against this bouncer.
Hey,
I'd watch that on a fight pass card.
He is nuts, though.
Yeah, I don't know why you don't let him fight. They just signed a guy that had, what is it?
He was a barista.
Well, I'm not even thinking about that. just somebody recently. He comes in the UFC, and the last 10 people he fought had never won a fight ever.
That happens a lot.
Yeah, they come in on hyped up records too.
Yeah,
because
padded. Yeah.
a long time ago, Dodge and I used to dive that much farther back into new fighters' records to see like what their success rate actually was.
And my favorite thing was looking at what guys they fought and what their win record was.
Yeah.
And it was like he hasn't fought a guy with a winning record since ever.
He's never fought anybody with a winning record.
The last 10 fights he did were against kindergartners, and he won every single one of them.
That's amazing.
Nice.
So how do you feel about Dana White and Ken Shamrock, hugging it out?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's 15 years ago. It would have been a big deal. I don't really care right now. I think it's just something like now Shamrock can go in the UFC Hall of Fame if they really did squash their beef. Then he can go in the Hall of Fame because, I mean, technically...
He'll get to show up at the UFC fan expo.
Yeah, he can show up at the fan. Maybe he can start making some money off autographs and appearances, you know?
Yeah.
He's got it bad right now.
No, what are you talking about? He's working for 50 Cent, remember? He's 50 Cent's bodyguard. He says he would have stopped Solang from knocking out Jay-Z in that elevator. That's all I'm saying. He says he would have taken care of that.
Wasn't he there?
No. He said he would have taken care of it, though. He goes, there's obviously that bodyguard needs to come and do my training course.
Ken Shamrock said that.
Yeah.
You think it was 50 Cent there.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I thought Ken Shamrock was there.
Oh,
No.
Because
50
he
Cent apparently was there.
Yeah.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Ken Shamrock is obviously there, but not as Jay-Z's bodyguard.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, he would have done a better job. Did you see 50 Cent didn't get attacked?
He was like, I was going to do
50
something.
Cent didn't get attacked.
Yeah, he was like, I was going to do something, but it wasn't Fitty getting attacked.
That's not my client.
Not my guy.
I wanted to see Jay-Z swing back. She caught him a couple times, so I wouldn't have been mad at him.
No, he's smart. That's how you keep all your money.
Yeah.
Don't react.
Right?
Don't react.
This is true.
And now the overused most joke on Twitter, now Jay-Z has 100 problems.
Yes. Oh, yeah. He
Exactly.
finally got the problem with a bitch.
Yeah.
Finally got the problem with a bitch. Awesome. Moving on now to...
Moving on to the UFC, suing a gym for showing UFC 145 via paid stream. They paid to get the stream on their laptop, hooked it up to a projector, and showed it to all of their students. Didn't charge the students, just had all their students come over to the gym and watch the UFC stream. This is the Stronghold CrossFit and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym in Point Loma, California. And they are being sued by the UFC, by Johan Promotions, who handles the distribution of the UFC. So basically, Johan Promotions is saying, you are just like a bar. For a public viewing license, you have to go through us for that stream. You can't get the public stream to show this in your gym because you're like a bar. You're like a public viewing.
Had he done this at his own house,
he would have been fine.
Would have been fine. Like we.
It was just because it was a public place.
It was just because it was a public place.
I got to kind of call bullshit on that because it is technically, because it's a gym, it's kind of a members only place anyway.
Right.
And it's nothing like a bar because they're not doing it for entertainment purposes.
And they didn't charge anybody.
They're not charging an admission. I think it's being kind of.
They're not making any money off of it.
Yeah, it's a little petty on the UFC's part for that. I think that
Johan Promotions.
Okay, Johan Promotions. I think somebody needs to step in and say it's a little petty.
Well, apparently this went to court, and so far they said that going back and forth that you can't sue them because it was over the internet. You can't prove that it was through cable. It could have been satellite. It could have been like airwave internet, and there's no law that says you can't show something over the internet.
Really?
That's not cable. If you can prove that you did not use cable internet, you can get away with it.
Well, I'm gonna have to start looking into this a little bit.
This loophole that's going on right now. I'm sure it will close up very soon.
They're gonna tighten that up.
Pretty interesting though. Did you see this fight?
I did.
This is a fight that happened in which I thought was hilarious, the Michigan Prison City Fight League.
Now we just had another video like this 2 weeks ago.
This is where the guy quit on his own.
Yeah.
One guy quit on his own.
That was to save his own ass.
That was to save his own ass. This is completely different.
Right, but
This is a guy.
We've had just random tap outs now 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
It seems like.
This is a guy who's a Jackson MMA fighter. Let's see, his name is Mike Pentenko.
Sure.
Pentenko was fighting Jeremy Rasner. And basically, he was destroying him. He was hitting him with all kinds of stuff. He was hitting him flying knees. He was hitting him with head kicks. He was hitting him with spinning elbows, like everything you can think of. And basically, he tapped out for the other guy. He just tapped. He says, I just feel there's no point fighting him because he didn't train against me.
Yeah, and he said neither one of us are getting paid.
I didn't train for him. I just feel like we're amateur fighters. We don't get any money. We don't get paid. And I know the only thing I'm going to finish the fight is he's going to go to the hospital and get hurt, and I don't want that to happen. I feel terrible. I'm just going to give him the win.
Right. I guess that kind of makes sense if you look at it from that aspect, because he probably, by finishing the fight, would have sent the guy to the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
And the guy...
Yeah, because the guy wasn't quitting.
The guy was even wobbly. I mean, he was all over the place.
Yeah. So, I mean, is that good sportsmanship? I don't know.
Would you see this happen in the UFC? I don't think it would make it to that level.
No, I don't think so.
No, we've seen the latter where they just like, okay, we're going to continue to beat the shit out of him.
Mazzagati's like, just keep going. I'm not going to warn you. Just keep going. Hey, wait, that's a point.
Well, there was a fight like that recently. It was just Who was it, like 2 weeks ago? It was just getting punched nonstop.
Yeah.
Matt was the Matt Brown fight,
right?
And Eric Silva.
Yeah.
Until
he started bleeding, kept letting it go. Gotta let it go.
Eric Silva doesn't remember the last round and a half of that fight.
Well, speaking of Matt Brown said he would like to fight Diaz. He would fight Nate. He wants to fight Nick Diaz. Nate came out on Twitter and said he would like to fight Matt Brown, which doesn't make sense. Dana White recently came out on UFC Tonight and said there's no way in the world that fight is not even being talked about. It's not even close. We've never even considered that fight. Nate Diaz did say he was interested, but that fight doesn't make sense. He fights at 155. He's lost 2 of his last 3. Brown is on this unbelievable roll. He's a welterweight. He's been fighting there for a long time. He deserves a top contender. If Nick Diaz wants to come out and fight Brown, I will do that fight.
Yeah!
I would love to see that fight.
Dude, he said it. There you go. Nick's got to come back.
But now Nick's got to come out if he's not drunk at a club talking about Shogun getting hold up.
How long has it been since Nick fought, though? How much ring rust is that guy going to have?
When's the last time he fought? When he lost to GSP?
You just love saying that. Like when he's like, what do you mean? The last 2 fights he lost.
GSP, right?
Yeah, I get it.
I mean, when's the last time Nick Diaz fought? Anybody remember?
It was GSP. It's been, 2 years? It's been forever, man.
We will look that up right now. Boom! Last time he fought was 2013. It was last year, March.
Oh, okay. It seemed like it's so
when he
much
fought
longer.
GSP, and the fight before that, he did lose to Carlos Condit in February of the year before.
But he would be a better draw and a better fight for Matt Brown than Nate.
I would say that's a co-main event, 2 possibly main event.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know about pay-per-view main event. Definitely co-main event of a pay-per-view.
Nick Diaz gets buys. You put him on a pay-per-view, he gets buys. Right. And I guess if he's only on a year off so far, he's
and if he won,
make that the title eliminator.
Yeah, if he won, the next one would go through the roof.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, whoever wins that fight gets a title shot.
Hands down.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Has to be. Of course, I don't know.
I don't think Nick. I think Nick's going to stay retired.
He's having a good time talking about Shogun.
Yeah, I guess.
He looked like he was having a good time.
Well, yeah, he looks pretty happy to me.
Another fight, according to Ariel Helwani, that came out on UFC Tonight yesterday. He was saying that the UFC is working on getting Stun Gun to fight Hector Lombard. Now, Stun Gun is, and I just lost his name now. That's awesome.
What, Dong Hyun Kim?
Yes, Dong Hyun Kim. Sorry.
I just caught up where Mike Pyle was saying how much he likes some dong.
He loves dong, yeah. Dong Hyun Kim up against Hector Lombard in Macau. How do you feel about that fight?
Hector Lombard and Stun Gun in Macau?
Yep.
I'd like to see. This would be an interesting fight. It would definitely somebody would move pretty high up the ladder after this. It would be a good step forward for either one of these guys who wins, especially since Hector Lombard had this huge, promising career coming into the UFC. And I don't want to say he hasn't delivered, but he kind of has delivered.
Lately he's been delivering. The first fight he definitely did not.
Yeah, he didn't live up to his expectations.
This last fight he did pretty well.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, I'd be down for it for sure.
All right. And then let's move on to this weird, interesting story that's going on.
Yeah.
So New York does not have sanctioned mixed martial arts. They do have unsanctioned, kind of underground mixed martial arts. They do allow amateur bouts, but they do not have sanctioned MMA. This is something that's been especially the UFC has been lobbying for a long time. They keep getting blocked, obviously, by the Culinary Union. They attacked them multiple times and been able to put them out. Unfortunately, so you have a lot of these unregulated bouts and things that have been going on, like I said, that are amateur bouts. So they've come to find out that guys that have fought in New Jersey, who have been banned from fighting in New Jersey, where they actually have an athletic commission that allows mixed martial arts. And they're turning guys away due to a lot of things, such as what they have here. They have subdermal hematomas,
which is nothing, concussions,
hepatitis C, HIV, detached retinas, and other medical conditions. They're turning these guys away in New Jersey, have been allowed to fight in New York.
There's not so much being allowed to fight.
With no regulation.
Yeah, there's no checking.
Which is pretty crazy.
They're showing up in a parking garage somewhere and they want to throw down. And
I'm sure these are happening in more than just parking garages.
Facebook fights, bro.
Yeah, in gyms.
Fighters looking fights.
You know what I mean? Fighters seeking fights.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty crazy how unregulated it is, and they think that this is going to help MMA in New York.
My whole thing is like, bro, you need to be fighting for your life, not fighting for like a $500 paycheck.
Yeah.
You got HIV, you're going to die.
He's probably going to fight like that, too. What I got to live for?
It's crazy to me. Hell no.
It's a scary, scary situation.
Yeah. I mean, think about when Magic Johnson came back to play basketball, and a lot of the players were worried about that because every once in a while, an elbow gets thrown or something like that, someone starts bleeding on the court. Blood happens in MMA all the time.
Yeah,
it's not if, it's when. So I mean, I can see why that's a concern. It has nothing to do with like being prejudiced against people who have Hep C or HIV. It has to do with safety. That's a pretty serious deal. I mean, how many people have gotten bled on? I mean, we've seen fights that look like, Tyler Durden bleeding on Joe in Fight Club.
Right.
Think about Joe Stevenson. You know what I mean? Imagine if
Edwin Deweese.
Yeah, or
just like
Sean Shirk. Yeah, Sean Shirk when he got kneed by BJ Penn.
In fact, I think I did a whole write-up that was somewhere. I think it's still on our Facebook of like the bloodiest, most violent fights.
I mean, think about
in the UFC and in Pride.
If those had, if any of those guys had Hep C or any other kind of bloodborne pathogen that was like dangerous,
it's like in the guy's mouth.
Yeah, that pissed me. Man, if I got herpes from a fight, dude, I would be pissed. Like, what happened? What is this? Dude, blood in my mouth, and I got that sucks. I didn't even get to enjoy getting it.
That's really bad.
So then we had our Bellator pay-per-view happen over the weekend. It actually happened.
I love seeing the Tito's back. The Tito's back tweets and Facebook.
A lot of Tito's back tweets, yeah. So
if a has-been beats a nobody in an organization that nobody cares about, does it make a sound?
Let's roll over the main card. We have Michael Page defeating Rick Rainey. We have Alexander Volkov defeating Blagio Ivanov. Tito Ortiz chokes Alexander Shlemenko. Now, mind you, this is a light heavyweight taking out Alexander Shlemenko, who is their middleweight champion. So now Bellator's screwed.
Right.
Because you don't have a champion that you can really promote anymore because he just got beat. Now, mind you, it was a guy that was a bigger weight class, but also a guy who's lost his last 6-7 fights. Mm-hmm. And it's Tito Ortiz. Tito, he all of a sudden decided, I could beat any light heavyweight now because look what I did to a middleweight. He literally said, I will roll over every light heavyweight.
That's right. In his head, that's how that math works.
So that means he's fighting Rampage next, right?
No. Then we have Will Brooks takes Michael Chandler's belt. Michael Chandler was supposed to be fighting Eddie Alvarez. Because obviously...
So he gets beat by the late replacement?
Yeah, he gets beat by the late replacement. Now, Michael Chandler... Remember, Eddie Alvarez technically has their belt. This was for the interim belt, and they were trying to build up the Michael Chandler, Eddie Alvarez 3. Mm-hmm. And what happens? Will Brooks wins.
Right.
And then Quentin Rampage Jackson defeats King Mo Law.
Which he did not.
Which I don't think he did. It was very controversial, unanimous decision. I think it should have been a split decision. It should have went the other way, in my opinion.
Right.
Mo Law definitely dominated the wrestling. And not only that, but Quentin Rampage says he doesn't know if he wants to even fight Emmanuel Newton, the guy who beat King Mo twice, because he trains with him and they share a coach. Now, that's the guy who just won the light heavyweight tournament bout. So now, again, Bellator's screwed. You have 3 matches that don't make any sense anymore.
Wow. So, well, I mean, I'm still sticking with my one pay-per-view.
This will be the last pay-per-view?
Yep.
What were the buys? Did we find out?
Haven't found out the buys yet.
I know he wouldn't even talk about the tickets sales.
Yeah. It's probably because they had to give away more tickets.
Wouldn't even discuss it. He's been asked almost every day this week.
That's awesome.
Mr. Bjorn does not want to comment.
Absolutely fantastic. I got a feeling that it's going to be. That's why I think that after they had to pay the fighters and everything.
Yeah.
Like you're looking at a pretty serious hit here.
Now, mind you, Viacom has some money.
But they're not just going to keep emptying their pockets for a failing promotion.
No.
Look how long Zuffa did.
Yeah.
They admitted.
Yeah.
First 5 to 7 years. Just watched it fly away.
I mean, that is a good point.
It's coming up. It's coming up. We're going to get paid soon. Guys.
It's going to happen.
And if you're anybody in front of Viacom, that's what I would do. I'm like, look at Zuffa. They lost money for half a decade.
God, could you imagine if Forrest Griffin and Stephen
Bonner didn't work?
Happened? Yeah. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
It's all just crazy.
Last bit of news is good humor between Henderson and Cormier.
I like this. Last bit of news, yeah. So just before 173, which is happening this Saturday, we're about to break down here any minute here. Dan Henderson, from his hotel room, ordered Popeye's chicken because he knows how much Dan Cormier loves Popeyes, and hand-delivered it during their workout sessions.
Was this before weigh-ins?
Yeah, this is before weigh-ins.
That's brilliant.
Before weigh-ins, he's like, I wanted to give you something to help you with your weight cut, buddy. I love you. And literally brought it into while he's training. Look, he's bringing two 24-piece chicken meals. 24-piece chicken meals. Look, brings it in while he's training. And at first, Cormier thought he was joking. And then he walks over and he's like, wait a minute, he's serious? He looks over and sees the chicken sitting there. He's like, you're a dick. You're an asshole, man. You're an asshole. I'm like, get out of here. He's like, yeah, I'm going to go get me some chicken. I'll be back.
That's just mean, man.
Who was it that used to send prostitutes to the running backs? I think that was Lawrence Taylor.
I think it was. I think you're right.
Would.
I think you're
he would
right.
send hookers to the running back's room the night before he played that team. Brilliant.
It's got to have a game, man. You got to have a game ready to go.
Cain Velasquez there just laughing. I'll eat that chicken.
He just starts eating it in front of Cormier. What? I'm the heavyweight champion.
All right, so let's get on to
Hey,
down.
before we break it down, I just want to talk about V3 fights on the West Coast. They're going to be fighting June 21st in Memphis, Tennessee. They're at v3fights.com. It seems like a real legit production.
And the number 3?
The number 3.
Yeah, V, the number
So you don't
3
spell out 3?
fights. No.
You have to spell out V?
No.
It's the letter V, the number 3,
Okay.
fights.com.
For the Joey impaired, it is just a V, then a 3, the digit 3,
Digit 3.
and then fights.com.
.com.
Got
I
it.
believe it stands for Vinny Vidi Vici.
Yeah, that seems to be what's in
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, you all right with that?
They're out of Memphis. Seems real legit.
Appeal to your Italian heritage?
Yeah, it does. My WAP heritage.
Yeah, check out some of their fights. They have some pretty hardcore knockouts.
Cool. So good luck on the 21st then, guys.
Yep.
Yeah. As we jump in here to UFC 173 going down on Saturday.
You want to start down at the bottom of the prelims on Fight Pass?
Sure, let's go, man.
All right.
So I don't even know. I probably don't have the right
David
order.
McHugh
Up against Jangalang.
Lee.
Jangalang. Jangalang. Jangalang.
Dude, he's got to come out to LL Cool J. It's jangling, baby.
It's Jangling, baby.
Go ahead, baby.
I'll take Lee all day.
I mean, David Michaud is putting his undefeated
Both these
record
guys
on the
making
line.
the UFC debut.
Yeah, and we got one putting his undefeated record on the line. Jangalang Lee has 2 losses. You're taking Jangalang all day, huh?
Yep.
Why are you taking Jangalang?
Why not?
Because I just like saying his name. LL Cool Jangalang. Sam Cecilio going up against Aaron Phillips. You have Aaron Phillips also throwing his undefeated record on the line, making his debut, I'm assuming,
Yes.
in the UFC.
Yes.
Sam Cecilio, we've seen a few times. He's 12-4.
Hasn't looked that impressive in the UFC, though.
No,
He hasn't
no,
really
he
been able
hasn't.
to put it together. He's 2-3 in the UFC. He is 12-4 overall, 2-3 in the UFC. I really hope he can put it together and stick around. Otherwise, I think it's maybe his walking papers.
I think it's entirely possible that Aaron Phillips is going to use him as a stepping stone to just get out of the Fight Pass area.
Yeah.
And then moving on from there, it's Anthony Nkwani up against Vink.
Vince.
Is it Vince?
It is Vince
All right.
Pichel.
He doesn't know how to spell Vince.
Vince was coming off of the Ultimate Fighter, who is 8-1. He's 1-1 in the UFC. Going with Anthony Nkwani, you've seen him a lot of times in the UFC. He has got an even record in the UFC, even though his overall record is 16-7.
Now, Anthony Nkwani, he's fallen all the way down to the Fight Pass card because of his losses in the UFC.
Yes.
But he's still got pretty good stand-up.
Yeah, amazing stand-up. He's got really good kickboxing.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what Vince can put up against Anthony Nkwani. If Anthony Nkwani doesn't win this, then he's going to have a losing record in the UFC and probably going to get his walking papers.
I'll take Nkwani, though, to win this, possibly by decision.
I think so? You
Yeah.
don't think he's on his way out yet?
Not yet.
He's
Not quite yet.
Not done as a fighter?
Not quite yet.
So then Al Quinta is going to kick off the preliminary card on Fox Sports 1 up against Mitch Clark.
Yes.
How do you feel about this fight?
I think El Quinta is definitely going to take this fight. He's 3-1 in the UFC. He's 8-2-1 overall. He's a Sarah Longo fighter.
Wow.
He's still looking for that knockout that Sarah Longo fighters are known for, but he still puts together a pretty solid game with the standout, mixing it up with his jiu-jitsu. I think it'd just be a little too much for Mitch Clark to handle.
Mitch Clark coming in at 10-2, and he's 1-2 in the UFC. And if Al Quinta is looking for a knockout, this might be the fight that he finds it in.
Yeah.
Chico Camus going up against Chris Holdsworth. Holdsworth is undefeated. Chico Camus has the experience here, 14-4. And what do you think on this one?
You know what? Chris Holdsworth, in my opinion, he did all 5 fights he's finished by submission. But looking at his skills when he was on The Ultimate Fighter, remember he was the one that was on Team Tate that they seemed to kind of be babying and kind of helping out to work his way through. He was their number one pick.
Misha Tate's buddy.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was their number one pick. He is from Team Alpha Male. I just think Chico Camas might be able to get the edge here with his experience.
You think that Misha Tate's boyfriend was a little jealous of Chris Holdsworth on the show?
No, because he seemed to take him under his wing. Unless he was keeping him, pretty close so he wouldn't get on his girlfriend.
Maybe that's why he was keeping him close.
It's possible.
He's trying to get a little smell on him.
Tony Ferguson going up against Katsunori Kikuno.
Now, both these guys have 20 first-round finishes between the two of them, which is pretty impressive.
That's
so this
insane.
might be your quick fight of the night.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're going to have to watch these guys close. I mean, if you guys looking at experience here, Katsunori, he has 22, 5, and 2. So think about that for a second. 29 fights this guy has. Tony Ferguson only has 17 total, but he's 14 and 3, so he's got a pretty damn good record.
Yeah.
And with, like you said, 20 first-round finishes between the two of them, it's going to be lightning.
Yeah.
Who are you taking?
I think I'm going to be taking Tony Ferguson. I think he mixes up his striking and his wrestling very well.
I'm with you
and he's got some definitely heavy hands that we've seen before.
Yeah, I'm with you on Ferguson on that one. Now, this is going to be an interesting fight with Michael Chiesa going up against Francisco Trinaldo. Mike Chiesa, of course, is the guy who basically finishes everybody with a was it a rear naked choke?
Yeah.
Yeah, almost every single fight that he's finished has been with a rear naked choke. He's got one decision win, I believe, and every other thing it was a choke except for the one loss, which was I think it was a Bravo choke. But that's what you got to look for with this guy. He's going up against Francisco Trinaldo, who I can only assume is going to try to keep it on his feet. What do you think about Francisco?
I like Francisco Trinaldo in this fight. Again, I think he's one of these guys that mixes it up very well. Michael Chiesa did win the Ultimate Fighter and shaved off that crazy homeless beard that he had going on for a long time. He didn't impress me, obviously, when he lost to George Masvidal. He looked like he was outclassed, and I think Francisco Trinaldo's going to give him a tough fight.
Think so?
Yeah.
Now he's going to be looking for that rear naked choke, obviously.
Yeah.
Other than that, he hasn't looked for much else in his fights. So he's had a couple of different chokes, but for the most part, it's rear naked choke. So if he gets to the back of Francisco Trinaldo, you might as well get up and go grab a beer because that's probably when it's over. Next up, we have your favorite fighter ever in the UFC, Jamie Varner.
I have a little thing to say about him. Even though I don't like this guy, obviously from his WC days where I thought he ducked a lot of fighters and he pretty much quit a lot of times and was still able to win.
Are you coming around?
I think lately he's shown that he actually wants to be here and he's put on some exciting fights.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he has too.
I will say that.
I just remember, as long as we've been doing this together, you've always been
I don't like him because, again, in the WEC, I thought he ducked a lot of fighters and I thought he kind of played it safe a lot of the times. In fact, when he got illegally kneed, he was like, nope, can't continue. Oh, did I win? Oh, I win! He got to keep his belt. Even though he was losing that entire fight. He was losing that entire fight.
He was just praying for a knee.
Yeah, pretty much. He does have fast hands. He does seem to get a little reckless, though, when either he's tired or when he thinks he already has the guy finished and he just starts wailing on the guy trying to finish the fight. He gets a little crazy, and then that didn't work too well with him in his last fight where he got knocked out by Abel Trujillo.
Right.
So
going up against James Krause, who is not lacking any experience with a record of 20-5.
No.
So how do you feel about this fight?
James Krause is also going to be 6 inches taller than Jamie Varner.
Wow.
I think he's definitely going to be using range to control the distance.
6 inches, though, right?
Yeah. Is that what you tell him?
That's what I tell everybody.
He's got really good kicks. I do think, though, that Jamie Varner is good at pressure, is good at mixing up his takedowns and strikes. As long as he doesn't get too reckless, I think he will win this fight.
It's going to be interesting to see that reach advantage with James Krause, who, like I said, again, has the experience in this fight, too. He's not too far behind Jamie Varner.
Yeah.
So this could be a good back and forth. We'll see what happens there. With Takeya Mizugaki next up against Francisco Rivera. You got Takeya Mizugaki, very experienced again, 19-7-2. Francisco coming in with just 12 fights at 10-2. I got a feeling you're taking Takeya Mizugaki in this one.
I am taking Mizugaki in this fight. He is super, super durable. We know he likes to trade in the pocket. I'm not saying he's unhittable because he gets hit a lot, but
right.
He is so durable that he just doesn't go down. He is a grinder. Now, Francisco Rivera is a very heavy hitter. He's got fast hands. He's got good... he's fast overall, but he does have good hand speed. He likes to jump on guys when he sees that he's in trouble, so he's what they call a killer. You know what I mean? He sees a guy hurt, he rushes in to try to finish. But Mizugaki's not an easy guy to finish. I mean, he's gone through a prime Miguel Torres to decision. He's gone through a lot of these guys and been able to walk away with the decision. He needs to be able to, again, exchange in the pocket and grind this fight out. I'll be taking Mizugaki. Now, Mizugaki, also Rivera, is a short notice replacement, and that is because that TJ Dillashaw, Mizugaki's original opponent, is getting moved to the main event. So Francisco Rivera is coming in on short notice.
Got it. Okay.
I will be taking Mizugaki.
Yeah, Francisco Rivera, I mean, he could surprise everybody.
Yes.
The thing is because he's so quick to jump and get that killer instinct, if he has to go all 3 rounds with Mizugaki, we got to question his cardio.
Exactly.
In the late rounds as well. Then we move on to Robbie Lawler up against Jake Ellenberger. This is going to be a great fight.
People are saying this could be technically the title fight for the welterweight division. If Robbie Lawler actually won the belt, which a lot of people think he should have won.
Right.
I'm one of those people that think Robbie Lawler lost that. He should have won if he didn't taunt and and throw away that 5th round by allowing Hendricks to score those points, because he wasn't getting knocked out. Right. He was definitely getting the better of the exchanges, but then he was just begging him to hit him and kind of taunting him like, you're not going to knock me out. That's scoring points. So. Right. We know Lawler has heavy hands. We know he's got good boxing, decent takedown defense. He's good in the clinch. His cardio might be an issue. He has looked tired in these later fights. Ellenberger, though, I mean, this guy's the juggernaut for a reason. He just keeps going. He did look flat in his fight against Rory McDonald, so he needs to prove that he wants this fight.
That was the fight, last July.
Yes.
It was like where even Dana White was like, both these guys are our top contenders.
Yeah,
it was one of
and
the
they
most
look like
fights
shit.
of the year. Yeah,
and they said it was one of the most boring. And they said he just couldn't pull the trigger. He just did not want to push it. And
you can't do that against Lawler.
You cannot do that against Lawler. Now, again, both these guys are wrestle boxers. I think I'm going to be giving the edge to Jake Ellenberger if he does the fight, if he can control the fight well, but I would love to see Robert Lawler win.
You got to look at how many KOs Jake Ellenberger has coming into this, too. It's not like he doesn't have heavy hands. He's got 18 KOs out of 29 wins, and a lot of the last fights that he has won, he had a KO over against Nate Marquardt, and then if you go down further than that, he TKO'd Jake Shields, knocked out Sean Pearson, TKO over John Howard at Doomsday, TKO over Mike Pyle. But
when's the last time Lawler was knocked out?
I don't think Lawler with Nick Diaz.
I think
that was the last time Robbie Lawler was knocked out.
It's been some time.
When Nick Diaz knocked him out, it was like one of those weird punches, the little baby punch that somehow knocked him out.
It was the Anderson Silva Forrest Griffin jab.
Yeah, it was weird, man. Like I'm looking.
Decision.
KO is Nick Diaz. Last time he was knocked out was April 2nd, 2004.
Only time I think too he's ever been knocked out.
That's all I see.
Yeah, it's the only time he's ever been knocked out. So I don't think he's going down now. He could get submitted by Jake Ellenberger, but I think his defensive grappling's enough to be able to keep it on the feet.
I love it, man. We're seeing a new Robbie Lawler. We're seeing somebody different than we saw back in the days when he did get knocked out by Nick Diaz. I like the freight train that he's on right now. It's going to be cool to see the outcome of this fight for sure.
So you taking Lawler for sure?
I will definitely take Lawler.
All right.
I'm a big Lawler fan in this fight. Dan Henderson in your co-main event up against Daniel Cormier, who I'm assuming hopefully by this point in time has gotten to eat his chicken.
No, he's not allowed to eat chicken until he's done.
Oh, man.
Until he's done making weight.
That's going to be really, really old.
Daniel Cormier is undefeated. He is 14-0. He went through Strikeforce and dominated everybody there. He's come through the UFC. He's 3-0 in the UFC. He's doing very well. Now, most of the time, this was at heavyweight. He has dropped down to light heavyweight. He says he feels much better at light heavyweight. He wants to finish his career at light heavyweight. Both these guys are amazing Olympic caliber wrestlers. Both these guys were on the Olympic teams.
Yeah.
You got a Greco-Roman wrestler up against a freestyle wrestler. We talked about this before when the fight was first announced. This is going to be a great clash of styles. Dan Henderson is the perennial underdog. He is always the underdog in his fights, but he always proves everybody wrong. I mean, that right hand is an equalizer.
It really is.
He can put anybody down at any time as long as he can land it. And Cormier's chin hasn't been tested yet.
Not by someone with
the hand that Henderson has.
No.
But his striking has definitely gotten a lot better since he first started. He's done well in the clinch. I mean, look what he did against Frank Mir. He was able to dominate. He's also got a very good double leg. His last fight, you couldn't really see what he did. I mean, he beat the guy in, 70-something seconds, and that was a former barista, so it's not like that was really much of a challenge. I think this is going to be a really good fight.
The thing about this that interests me the most is that if you look at the wrestlers that Henderson has lost against, they're nowhere near the same caliber of wrestler that Daniel Cormier is. You look at Jake Shields, you look at Rampage Jackson, you look at Rashad Evans. They're not on that level of Daniel Cormier's wrestling, and they did enough to keep it on their feet and give Henderson fits to where he would lose a decision to them.
Right.
So we're going to see that same problem with Cormier. Is Cormier's stand-up good enough to give Henderson fits because if he can't take him down?
I don't think his stand-up is good enough to give him fits, but I definitely think his wrestling will give him fits. And I think that's where Daniel Cormier walks away with the decision in this fight.
Think so?
Yes.
Or you think he's going to use his wrestling in reverse, though, to keep it standing, or do you think that he's going to try to get to the ground?
I think it's going to be a combination of both. I think he'll mix up the strikes and the wrestling well. If he starts losing a little bit on the striking, he'll take him down, pound on him a little bit, let him get him back up, kind of frustrate him and tire him out. We know Dan Henderson has some cardio issues. We've seen that multiple times in 5-round fights, even 3-round fights. So
that's what I got to wonder about. Because I don't necessarily think that Cormier's stand-up is as good as Henderson's.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Henderson is a world-class boxer by any means, but with his experience and his training, his boxing has improved vastly.
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't know how well Daniel Cormier is going to be able to keep it standing, especially looking out for that big right hand. However, if his wrestling is as good as we all think it is, then he's going to be able to get Henderson down at will almost, especially after the first round when Henderson's cardio is dwindling.
Yeah.
So you got Daniel Cormier in this fight?
I'm taking Daniel Cormier decision.
I'm kind of up in the air on this one, but I'll go with Henderson.
I'd like to see Henderson win.
Yeah, I'll go with that just because of that big right hand. Moving on to your main event, a guy who hasn't lost in 31 fights. You have Hayden Barrow defending his title up against TJ Dillashaw, a late replacement coming into this fight card. We got to talk to TJ Dillashaw. If you get a chance to listen to that interview, it is posted on all of our pages. Just make sure you give that a listen.
Not only has he not lost 31 fights, but it's been 9 years of 31 fights.
And you got to think too. I'm not taking anything away from TJ Dillashaw here, but I mean their captain, their flagship man, Uriah Faber.
I don't think TJ Dillashaw is quite ready. I think he got through. Obviously, I mean he was supposed to get this fight if he beat Alicanteri, and he lost to Alicanteri. Alicanteri had to step away from this fight due to a rib injury. That is why TJ Dillashaw has been given this shot. Yeah. He says he's ready.
Of course he does.
I mean, he says this is what he's been training for his entire career. He is 19-2. He's 5-2 in the UFC. He has looked very impressive.
Just one time I'd like to talk to a fighter that you and I both know is going to be outclassed and have them be kind of like, yeah, I know, but, who wouldn't say yes to this fight?
Right?
I don't know. I think Shale said that in his last fight.
Yeah.
I think he pretty much admitted he was going to get whomped.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Dillashaw is an amazing wrestler. He's shown to have a good, stiff right hand. He blends his takedowns and his strikes very well. As of lately, he's been using a lot of feints and fakes, mixing it up with kicks, which is good. I mean, we saw those kicks in the Mike Easton bout. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, like we've said.
But Hayden Barrow, man, is on another level.
Dude,
it looks like Team Alpha Male doesn't know what to do against Nova União. Because literally every Team Alpha Male fighter that has fought a Nova União fighter has lost.
That does not bode well for this fight.
He uses kicks. He has an explosive jab. He controls the distance. He finishes every fight in every way. I mean, he's submitted guys. He's knocked out guys with spinning kicks, with, all kinds of chokes. He's also big for this division. He is a big, big bantamweight fighter. I definitely think he's going to have more tools to put away TJ Dillashaw in this fight.
Yeah, this is a guy that Dodge and I called when they brought him up from Brazil. We were like, this guy is going to be champ.
Yep.
As long as, looking at his record in Brazil, it's kind of hard to judge with the Brazilian fight leagues and stuff because, we don't follow those so closely. But when you got a guy who hasn't lost in 20-something fights when he joined the UFC, you kind of got to wonder. And then he proved himself in his first fight. And I was like, no, this guy's the real deal. And sure enough, he's proved it. And now he's the champ for a reason. And TJ Dillashaw's got his work cut out for him. We'll see what happens at UFC 173, which is, of course, this Saturday night. If you get a chance to watch it, we highly suggest that you do go to a friend's house or go to a gym that's streaming it live.
Technically, it's not illegal.
Yeah.
So big thanks to Fight Fans Radio Network. Of course, get us on our Spreaker, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. Subscribe on iTunes. You'll never miss an episode. It'll just update automatically. You can also get us on our website, which is SplitDecisionMMA.com. Twitter and Instagram. There we go. Twitter and Instagram is SD_MMA. And on Facebook, Split Decision MMA Podcast. From the Ruloff Family Inc. Studios, Bueller and Dodge saying have a good night. We'll see you at the fights.